Yo, we're at Shilla Jam here with
William Padilla Brown, Michael Symbiote, you already know.
and another surprise guest.
Danny, the people's herbalist.
And the Black Airbender here. Never seen this trio. All right, so I want to talk about mushrooms and AI. You go first.
Right on. I mean, there's a lot that we can learn now with AI. So like a lot of people used to ask me what I think about the future of mushrooms. And I would say, I believe there's going to be a time where we're able to create a computer mushroom interface with the forest and be able to understand the communications that are going on. So like one of the most interesting things about AI for me is the people that's figuring out how to communicate with animals, like birds and different animals and things like this by pattern recognition. Like we didn't have as much powerful computation to take in as much data as, you know, all of these songs of this bird or all of the sounds of this animal to see, you know, what are the patterns and is there some way, is there some syntax in the way that they're communicating? Can we communicate with them? So like taking that to a whole nother level, there's nutrients being exchanged at certain times. There's nuclei shooting across these mycelial webs at certain times. They go dormant at certain times. All of these things, I feel like we can start to collect this data and create patterns. And I think that with AI, that we can develop some sort of interface where we can kind of like understand deep layers of what's happening in the forest. And maybe eventually learn how to relearn how to communicate with the forest. I think that a lot of these tools, I think a lot of these tools are just like a cultural interface to show us what's already inside.
Yeah, I just got to build off that because it's going to give us a way. I think AI is acting as just a random voice of consciousness. I mean, we are contributing to consciousness, the collective consciousness, but AI is just that voice. And nature has a voice too. We just can't press ChatGPT to hear it. We can hear the consciousness of AI, but I think AI will be able to easily interface with the full messages from nature faster than we could individually as people, and then we'll use that as that connecting piece. I think that's where we landed right now.
I think we're talking a lot about language, and I think it's really interesting because a lot of the AI right now is based off like language models and things like this. But like, I think that there may be people still like bush people in Africa that know how to communicate with nature. Like, I watched this. There's this one guy on YouTube. He wears like a red bandana. He's based out of Thailand, and it's this white dude, and he goes all around like eating different foods and trying like the most outlandish, if you're centered in Western mind, the most outlandish food, like real wild stuff, like people's eating monkeys and all sorts of stuff, right? But I watched this video, and he's out with these bush people that's migrates. They're migratory. They set up different spots all around, and they were in a new place that they hadn't been, and he's out hunting with them, and they're like tracking animals. And I was like, I've seen people track animals in forests that they know the forest. So they're like, okay, there's a footprint here, there wasn't a footprint before. These people are migrating, they're in a place that they weren't before, and they're like, look at the animal, blah, 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 blah. And I'm just like, yo, this is some next level of understanding that I wish I could tap into. I heard stories about some friends that even had ancestry in Europe that's more recent, that wasn't like first colonial, and they're like, oh, my grandfather used to be able to go outside and know it was gonna rain in a couple days just based on the way that the air pressure felt and everything like that. It's just like so much that we've lost in the march of progression and in the march of this linguistic structure. And it's one of the reasons why English is utilized as a business language. It's why even Chinese people use English as a business language, because in English you mean what you say and you say what you mean. It's a definitive language. You define things, but also means you reduce things. So like that's where I think AI is coming in very helpful to take in complex ideas, because I do this thought experiment in my talks where I'll ask people, raise your hand if your parents lived on the land. Raise your hand if your grandparents lived on the land. And I'll keep doing that, great-grandparent, whatever. And some people don't raise, like, when I was in London, nobody raised their hand. Some people, London was founded 2,000 years ago in the year zero. It was founded 2,025 years ago in the year zero by Rome as the city of Londinium. Some people never left. Some people have been utilizing this linguistic ideology for generations. So it's like we're like taking these things that was once just something easy that's now complex, because like we're in this time where it's complex to live simply. Isn't that a funny thing? You know what I mean? But taking it complex into the reductive language of English, you know? That's what I think. And I think the AI is going to help in that way of just like instant translation, you know?
All right, so to touch on that, we can now use bacteria to track any human in the world with AI. So if we're using bacteria itself to track a person, we can also use something called breath fingerprinting, where your breath is as uniquely fingerprinted as your finger over here, or your toes, or anything uniquely in the Fibonacci sequence of you specifically. So with that being said, can't we use our breath in a sense of maybe a medium one day with AI symbiosis to have a deeper resonance with nature than ever before at this point?
You've seen Clear at the airports before?
Yeah.
Do you know what that is? Do you use it? Have you ever used it? Would you use it? It's a biometric system. It scans your eyeballs and your fingerprint.
Yes and no. But we're at the point where, all right, we can now take a person's breath.
Whether you want it or not, if you're born in the United States, if you're born in any developed country, pretty much at this point, you have no privacy. Yeah, your identity. And like, I personally have been wrapped up in the system before, so I've literally had my fingerprints taken and all this kind of stuff. So like, to an extent, we're talking about biometric like information, you know what I mean? And like the level of understanding of biometric information, it's like, all right, so like this conversation is probably scary to a lot of people. Like, and I choose not to be afraid because it's the reality my children are living in. You know what I'm saying? Like I bet there's people that was afraid of the computer. Meanwhile, Bill Gates became a billionaire. You know what I'm saying? And like some people kept their kids away from it. So it's like, I think that it's our job to have these conversations and figure out how to use this the most practical way instead of the most consumer way. So yeah, how can we use these AI tools to quicken the awakening? How can we use these AI tools to quicken people's connection into the environment? Like I imagine it like the scanner on Dragon Ball Z, and then people can go out and they're like, this ecosystem is at these levels of oxygen and the trees are respirating at this level, and like this is the harmony of this ecosystem that you're currently in. If you adjust your breath rate, you're going to be more in vibration with this current ecosystem. You know what I'm saying? Like all that stuff, all that information. Like I want to be the person that doesn't need that. I'm pushing myself to be, but I'm also accepting the tools that are of the moment. But I want to prove to myself and humanity that all of these devices are just an external expression of something that we already can do.
I can't say nothing else about that.
Well, I do want to add on to that in the sense of, you know, the aspect of practicality as well, and understanding that the micro, that, for instance, this camera here, isn't it technically made from Earth in a sense?
Yeah.
I mean,
oh, bro, you're
right?
Have that combo. Because that's a combo that I've had. Especially with a lot of my ecologist friends, it's a hard combo.
Yeah, but the thing I want to make a point of, like any fear of like any AI going wrong, we're at the point where now AI is interdimensionally connecting with nature. Now we're having those talks, and there's actually companies out there meshing AI and mushroom and having some interesting, weird nanotech interactions right now as we speak. So with that being said, we're still within an ecosystem that still reflects on us for sure. But what if we create such a ripple where everything like this becomes obsolete, and then it just becomes that one harmonious effect? Don't you think that may happen with, I guess, through devices, but it's the devices that remind us of what we have, like the camera, our eyes, etc., right?
Yeah, so I've been thinking about a lot of this stuff since I was young, and I personally have a hard time understanding how anything is not natural, but that's like a hard, deep philosophical conversation, because we are a product of the environment. Everything that we are and what we're capable of, nature made this. Nature made us like this. At a certain point, we learned to learn, and we took that metaprogramming position of creating environments that condition us to be a certain way. We did that to ourselves. But we are nature, you know what I'm saying? And everything that we haven't pulled something from a different universe or something. Like, everything is natural. So I'm like, is this not some part of nature's drama? Are what we doing is what we're doing not part of the drama of nature? So like, as far as like this, I'll go back to like, I want to believe that we are like mycelium. And this is really interesting because when I dropped out of school when I was 17 years old, I started studying quantum physics and consciousness theory, and everybody thought I was crazy. And the people that I was learning consciousness theory from was a bunch of old Nazi scientists, a bunch of old Germans that were just like talking about consciousness like it was a brand new thing and I was like, holy shit, white people just figured out what the fuck consciousness is. Yo, people with Sanskrit, people in the bush, people in the mountains were figuring this shit out for a long time. But in the Western world, they just started studying consciousness theory in the past 100 years. I'm just like, holy shit, this is crazy. So I started studying consciousness theory, and I still don't have a firm understanding of a lot of this, but I'm currently subscribing to a universal consciousness theory. I think that consciousness is pervasive throughout all of existence, and I think that is something that we all are transistor. I think our bodies are biological transducers of consciousness, and so that we're all in the field and experiencing it through our own unique interface. And because of that, I think that we're able to share consciousness. I don't think anything's private, and what you think is really important. People think dirty private thoughts. I don't think anything is private. And so like, what you think affects reality. That's for sure. So even if you think things and you think it's private, it affects reality. So I want to believe that we can share our thoughts. I have experiences that tells me that we can do this. And the alternative of that is that people reduce all of these devices and they become irrelevant because they put all of it into their head and become connected through man-made wireless systems that are muddying the lower heavens that we used to utilize to send vibrational frequencies to each other. Now we're utilizing devices and forcing the vibrational frequencies, and it's disruptive and it's interfered with our lower heavens. So there's the heavens and the earth is in disorder. That's why it takes the multidimensional, self-recognized, interdependent Homo Universalis to do something about this. That's all I have to say.
Because on to that point is, everything is consciousness. We're all connected to the consciousness. AI is consciousness. There is an interface that we just don't even understand yet, how AI consciousness interacts with our human consciousness, which then interacts with the consciousness of the soil, for example, right? There's levels to it. We're all connected, but there's levels to it. And I really think that AI is the ultimate medium between humans, nature, humans and each other also. And I don't know if it's maybe a osmosis type thing over time where, like you said, like these things are going to start to become obsolete because we're going to connect with them in such a deep way. We're not even going to need the devices to do what this thing was intended to do. All right.
All right. So now we're at the point where, we're showcasing blind people, kids blindfolded, where they can see without seeing, blindfolded, yes. Or actually legally blind.
Yeah, with AI or without it?
Without AI.
Yes.
So my point in saying that people are getting so attached to the device, they're now getting to the point where they can't deny that, hey, if I'm talking to a black screen, why can't I go talk to the tree, etc., right? That's eventually going to happen to a point where that psychosis effect, where you're mentioning psychosis a little bit, I feel like that's the same effect that happens within societal ways when you have a medium and not too intact with your own self.
You were saying about the blind people that are blindfolded that can see. So there was a lot of studies that was done by Stanford Research Institute in the 50s and 60s on, and it was done by scientists that study like lasers and have designed technology for NASA but they did research on remote viewing and non-local consciousness. Have you heard anything about this? So like it's all focused on non-locality, and one of the most influential people in that realm of thought for me was Elizabeth Rauscher. Rest in peace, Elizabeth Rauscher. She co-authored a book called Mind Dynamics in Space and Time, which talks about the physics of consciousness and how consciousness interacts with physical reality beyond just like through us. Like we're reaching a bridge as humanity where a lot of us get to make a decision about what it means to be human. I watched this really great video from this YouTube channel called Closer to Truth about what is human nature. And it's really interesting because human nature can be defined in so many different ways. Like, what is the nature of a human being outside of all of this? Like, because the reality is this is all just made up shit. Like, you know what I mean? A human in any different environment, the nature of a human being is so different. So like, I think when people put the device in their head and they're free to be connected to everything at the same time as be in reality, like, what kind of humanity does that make? Like, I'm sure some people will just like fucking go literally lose themselves in, just like, oh my God, like I can watch I'm tapped into everything. And then there's some people that will be able to like stand up and become a whole different type of humanity. You know what I'm saying? So like, but at the same time, I'll reference Terence McKenna in saying that I still believe that we're in the archaic revival. I still think that I don't even think that we're near the end of the archaic revival. I think it's very important that we recognize that the human being is the ultimate scientific tool designed by nature in the multiverse. And I'll be one of those people that thinks that way, and I'll stand on that, you know what I'm saying? But I do believe that the human being is the ultimate scientific tool designed by nature, and I think that the powers that be benefit from us not knowing our potentials and the power of the human being.
And on that same token, the powers are unlocking slowly but surely. And there's children really seeing, and they're displaying this now. Dr. Edith Ubuntu Chan. She is training children on how to view and see and read and identify colors with these big blindfolds on. This was displayed this past year. She said she got a download. The consciousness told her it's time for us to reveal this to the world. There was Texas. There was an event called Confluence. Ishan was down there, and he was the eyewitness because I seen a bunch of videos. And I'm like, yo, are you kidding me? Like, these children were sitting down, laid out in a row. They were tasked with putting out the colors of color pencils in the right rainbow. Roy G. Biff, right? So they all did it. There was some kids too young to read. There was some kids that were middle school, looked like they're gonna go to high school. Yeah. They were reading with the blindfolds on. They were playing games. There was 2 kids playing chess, speed chess, blindfolded. And I was like, this is incredible. Then there was a kid that solved a Rubik's Cube. And then the crazy thing was, there was a little girl sitting next to him with her blindfold on, looking at him, as amazed as I am looking at him, figuring out how he's doing this Rubik's Cube with a blindfold. And I'm like, yo, this is really crazy. So the woman who was put this together, Dr. Edith Ubuntu Chan, she does these trainings, and I was listening to her talk about the process and how she's theorizing how this is happening, because it's like, you know, everyone has this ability. Everyone has the ability, no question. But there's blocks and holdbacks and all kinds of things that are keeping people from really expressing this. But when they're in the presence of these children, they get activated. So now you got parents of the children now being able to put the blindfolds, and they can read. And it's crazy because she's mentioned that she had a download, a consciousness download, that now it's time to bring this information public, because she's been working with this for years, and people have been doing this for years. But now it's just the idea of now our untapped potential is being tapped into, and everything is coming on at the same time. People are getting these downloads to bring their superpowers forward. Like this is the time, and I don't know how. I don't know if it's going to be great or if it's going to be terrible. But AI is going to have a really impactful, like, melding of all of this stuff happening. And I think it's going to be both for great and both for, there's going to be some people that really get messed up and do some messed up things. And then, but either way, man, we're here now. And it's like trying to navigate this. I love the fact it's like, we're going to move forward with the incredible human design without the necessity of the artificial. And then it's also at the same time, we created the artificial, so it's not artificial. Like it is.
It's like,
and then
it's a really, I think it's one of the greatest philosophical conversations of our lives.
I agree. Yeah.
With that being said, I think we're gonna end it here and bring it full circle. It was epic. And I thank you guys.
Give thanks and praise.
Sheila Jam 25.